All right, so let's talk a little bit about Illustrator. So you've played around in Photoshop a little bit, or maybe you haven't, and we're just starting out. So we've opened a new document, doesn't really matter what size. On the left-hand side, you'll have all of your tools, and over here you have all of your palettes. You may have something called libraries or links or document info. We don't need to worry about that. You also don't need to worry about the actions. It's just some defaults that, excuse me, that pop up. What we do really need to worry about are our layers. Artboards are different, like papers. Like, so this is like my paper, right? Or my canvas. It's different canvases I can have on the same document. We don't necessarily play around too much with that, but that's what that is. So just so that you know. But here's our layers. Remember, we can turn it on or off. We can also lock our layer. If we want to add a new layer, we just go to the plus sign and a new layer will pop up for us. So let's do that. And then let's say I don't want a layer. I just take it and drag it to the trash. Gone. So let's talk about a little bit of the tools here because they are a little bit different and then Photoshop or just different if you haven't used them before, and they're really important. So I'm just going to talk about a couple of them. I'm not going to talk about all of them. This right here is your direct selection tool. Well, your selection tool, sorry. This is your selection tool. So if I were to make a circle, let's say, and I wanted to select it and move it, I would use that tool. Really great tool for moving things. This little white one here is your direct selection tool. This one helps you manipulate your images or your lines. It manipulates your vectors essentially. So this is a vector made circle. We have vector made lines in Illustrator. Everything's vectors. So let's say I want to take this section here of a circle and I want to make it go in. Like I want to implode it a little bit. I have to click on my anchor point. So this little guy right here is my anchor point. And you can see these anchor points turned clear and then they got handles on them. So I already said I wanted to move it in. So if I want to move it in, I click on that anchor point and move it in. These handles change the curvature of my object. So if I take the end of a handle and move it this way, I can change it. And I can move this one this way, and I can change it to whatever shape that I want. That's what the direct selection tool does. The selection tool would then move this wherever I wanted to. Let's say I do something and I really don't like it. I can do Control Z, Control Z, Control Z, Control Z, Control Z, back to my circle. So these two are so super important and you'll use them all of the time. This next one is our pen tool. And we're going to get a little bit more into our pen tool later on, but your pen tool is really great for creating your own pieces of artwork. It manipulates very well and is a really great thing to learn to work with. So we'll do that. Curvature pen tool just automatically, oh wait, come on, there we go. Creates curves for you. So it automatically creates curves. We don't use that so often because a lot of times we're not just creating curves. We are using lines and stuff. Not that you can't combine these two, because you can totally combine using these two in the same thing. It's just up to you. So I'm going to delete that since it's covering my circle here. All right. Shape tool. Remember, if we click and hold, we have all of our shapes. Paintbrush tool. If you click and hold, you'll have other shape, different tools in here. The blob brush or the pencil tool. Text tool. The cool thing about the typing tool in Illustrator is that you can type on a path or type on a vertical, type vertically. So if I wanted to type on a path, I could click right here because this is a path. Any line we have is a path. I could click here. Non-compound, non-masking. I don't know why it's masking. Okay, so let's do this. Change it up. Let's try this guy. There we go. So then I could say like, hello. It's really little, which is okay. If I do Control A and come up here to my font, I can make it pretty big. There we go. So it's really fun. You can make it any size, anything that you want. And then that outline that you've created goes away, because most of the time you don't want to see the outline of the circle or whatever you've created when you're doing that. So that's a fun tool to use as well. Rotating tool. If I wanted to let's select it. If I wanted to rotate it, I can rotate it however I want, those kinds of things. I don't use the eraser very much. I do not like it. Shape builder tool, we won't use too much. Gradient tool, we will use. So gradient tool here is if I wanted to add a gradient to this guy, I can add it in here. There we go. And then with the gradient tool, so I added a gradient by clicking down here, but the gradient tool, then I can manipulate the gradient a little bit more. If I want more black, I can come over here and add more black. If I want the center to, the gray to not be as much, I can make that go whichever way. I can also, change it, but we're here. Here is where, and then I can move this up and down depending on how I want it to look. And then because I'm linear, I can't really change like going in a circle or anything like that. But if I wanted to do a radial gradient, there it is, then from here, I can take it and change where I want that like highlight to be mostly. I can change the middle. So many different ways. So gradient tool is really cool to use. You're going to want to use it. Eyedropper. If I want a certain color, I can come in, click the eyedropper and change it. This is a cool tool. This is a blend tool. So let's say, actually, let's do a star just for something crazy. All right. So if I want to blend this, I want to blend this to this. Come on. There we go. See how it blended the two shapes, which is really weird because this is it's a crazy shape. So it blends these two shapes together. You can, pretty sure you can ungroup them. So if you object, you can't. Oh, you can't ungroup them. My last one I could, so I don't know what's going on with this, but it blends your shapes. It's very cool, weird, obviously. Artboard tool. So remember we talked about artboards over here. I can add another artboard if I wanted to, but then I can also make my artboard larger. I can make it smaller. It just depends on what you want. But you can see there's a label of artboard 1 here. So if I wanted to make another one, I can make another one, and here's artboard 2. And then over here, it shows me what I have and I can work on it. So this is a very nice tool if you are trying to combine things or compound things and do that. I'm actually going to delete that because I don't need it. And then we have our magnifying glass. Let's talk about this guy right here because you're going to hear me say that a lot. We're going to do the star. Well, okay. We're going to make another star because I combined those two. We're going to make another star. Right now, that star is a gradient. Cancel. Right now, that star is a gradient. What if I don't want it a gradient? What if I want the inside to be yellow and the outside to be green? So if I double click on here, well, come on, here, change it back to regular color. There we go. So I changed it back to the default color. If I double click, I can get whatever color I want. What did I say, yellow? Okay, so this is your fill color. That's what it's called. This is your outline color. So if I want to change my stroke, if I want to change my outline or my stroke color, I said green, I can change it to green. Now I can't really see that outline, so if I go up here to my stroke, I can make it as large as I want. It's really dark green, so it's hard to see that it's green, but I promise it is. Let's change it to blue. There we go. Now you can see it. So you can also have your color guide up here and your colors, and you can change it that way as well. But that is something that you can definitely do and change all the time. One more thing, and then we're going to get into like manipulating shapes and changing shapes and stuff like that. Your stroke is over here as well. So I can change different fonts. This wasn't selected. Not fonts. I can change the weight of it. I can change like the cap or the corner of it. So if I change the cap on here and the corner, you can see everything rounded a little bit more. So I rounded it out instead of having it be straight. So that's something that you can do if you would like to do. I also have a gradient. My gradient palette is over here. Let's say I want this gradient to be colorful and not black and white. If I click here, come on, there we go. Red. Wait, where is this? This isn't working. Come on, gradient. Maybe it's because it's compounded. Let's see here. There we go. So it's because I have a compound shape there. So sorry about that. I was like, what is going on? If I want these, like let's say I want black to blue, I can take this blue and bring it down in here. And now I have blue involved in my gradient here. I can take this one and I can select it and delete it. So now I have black to blue. If I want to change the black, I can here we go. We can change here. So I want it purple. And there you go. So now I can change it to a linear gradient, a radial gradient. So there's lots of different things that you can do just depending on what you want. If I wanted to add another color in here, I could make sure, like click another dot here, double click this. Maybe I wanted green in there, although I don't think it's going to look good, but we're adding green in. We add a little bit of blue in and purple. So you can make a kaleidoscope of colors and then come in here and change it. Maybe I want a little bit more purple or whatever I may want. But the gradient tool can be lots of fun. Okay, so we already know that we can manipulate with the direct selection tool. So it's pretty cool. You can also delete things with it. So if I don't want this point, I can click on it, press delete, and now it's gone. So that's really nice for making half circles or anything along those lines. And then if I wanted to connect these two together, I grab the pen tool, I go to this path, and you can see that my little anchor point is there. And then I go over here, and I know that this shape is closed because I have a circle. And there we go. Now I have a new shape for whatever I want to do. Let's say I want to create some crazy shapes here. And I'll just do an ellipse tool. I'm overlapping this like this. I want to make it a different color though so that we can see what it is. Let's just make it red so that it's completely different. All right. Oops, I didn't mean to press that. Let's say I want these two to sort of, I don't know, go together. I can use the Pathfinder tool. If you don't have the Pathfinder tool up here, or the Pathfinder palette up here, this is what it looks like. You go to Window and you find it here. If you can't find anything, like all of a sudden your color palette's gone, or your gradient palette's gone, or anything along those lines, you come here. This is where you go. And you can scroll down and there's much more down. So don't panic, just come here. So I already have my Pathfinder here. Here it is. I already have it up here. This is a fun tool. So let's select both of these. Oh, the hello's in there too, which doesn't matter. So what this does is it can unite shapes together. It can delete the front of them. It can intersect them. There's so many cool things. So let's go through all of them. So I'm going to unite these shapes. So it united, and now it's one shape together. So that's nice. Let's say I don't like it. Control Z. Sorry, I moved it. Control Z, and it's done. It's the front. So it took this space out here, and it made two completely different like objects. If I don't want them connected, I need to right click and say ungroup. Then I can move this guy and this guy separately. When you do the Pathfinder tool, it automatically groups them together. So if you want them ungrouped, you just have to ungroup it. Let's do Control Z, that. And then if you wanted to intersect it, which is where they intersect and get that shape, there's that. So that's where the star and the circle, the oval intersected. Control Z. You can cut out the middle where they intersect. So many fun things. Uniting it. Oh, wait, no. This is dividing it. Sorry. This is dividing it into different chunks. Here, I'll show you. Let's ungroup. Ungroup. And now I have lots of chunks because I just separated everything. So again, we have to ungroup in order to do that. And then same thing for like trimming. It goes and it trims them apart, like it trimmed the outside. Um, so many different things that you guys can do. But the Pathfinder tool is a wonderful tool. So what I want you to do right now is I want you to build a composition based off of what we've learned today so far. I want you to take shapes, text if you would like, but mostly shapes with color and gradient in the Pathfinder tool and create a pleasing to the eye composition. I'm going to give you full reign of what you would like to do, but and what you want it to look like, what colors you want, how much gradient, all those kinds of things. But you're going to take the shape tools, you're going to manipulate them in some way. You are going to add color to them. You're going to mess with the stroke, all of those kinds of things. But you need to take those shapes and manipulate them in some way, shape, or form using the direct selection tool and the Pathfinder tool. That's what we're doing.